And you see Wildcard to start phase 2 of the bans, a little bit wary, maybe, of what that Mars can do with the proper help in the lane. They start with the ban on the Mirana. So, yeah, the Mars plus really sort of any aggressive position for hero can cause some issues here. So if you're Wildcard, I'm sure they're not really going to go overboard. We're not going to just see position 4 bans the whole way through here, but they're at least sort of trying to take away some of the easier to hit combos.
Yeah, and I think SA especially. I mean, we've seen the Mars Marauder lane how many times now? Of course, shifted from being their first into their first overall phase into being, more of a immediate pick in the second. But at the same time, we always talk about how the Marauder just doesn't fall behind in XP. You arrow the first wave, you never get a creep denied. It's just a great combo. But I think the Scarith Mage is also a very warranted band here. I think if before the DK needed the Scarith, now the Mars loves to have that Scarif. That would be their way to kill, especially a CK in this game. Anyone could die on the map if that Scarif mage was on Osmium's side. Not to mention, I think Spladen played again about as well as they need to. I think those two players were kind of picking up the scraps of what was kind of remaining after that early mid game fell off. But that's also where they kind of just failed after it became too much weight to carry. I think now though, Osmium, they want to pick up another hero for Slane, someone who's going to be able to farm a little bit more as he does typically like to play. Not saying they would need to necessarily lean into, I was going to say the Snapfire maybe would be a pretty decent pickup for them, just because A, feels like a Sladen hero, it's a ranged hero, Sladen loves his stacks, but also pairs up with the Mars, especially nice just having the kisses to throw down onto him. I feel like that's the most obvious hero we could see picked up for them. But the only issue is then Wildcard have kind of some brutal picks. If they pick too many strength heroes here in the second phase for Osmium, I could see them just immediately slamming down the Devilom with Timbersaw. They put the CK to 1, and then Osmium have huge problems.
Can't necessarily overplay your hand a little bit there trying to get that matchup that you want because you or do the potential counterplay. So, well, see what direction this goes in as Osmium will use their final ban on the Invoker. Not going to let that one through. And Wildcard, they do ban the Snap. So when they banned the Mirana, I was sort of saying they wouldn't go overboard. They wouldn't just ban out position 4 heroes entirely, but that is exactly what they do. And then they get the Shadow Demon on top of it. So all of a sudden, I mean, this is not this is not a lineup that you're easily going to be able to sort of jump in, even with the Mars, because that Shadow Demon with the defensive disruption is just going to be able to sort of bail his teammate out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really brutal drafting style from Wildcard because they've cut the Mars's damage off at the knees by taking that 4 pool so convincingly, and then they immediately counter him out with the disruption. It's not pretty, it's not easy, but that's where heroes like the Sand King do get to pull through here, and that does pose a few questions now because, of course, is this going to be a Mars mid? Is it going to be a Sand King mid? Osmium have that flexibility. I could see them going for their mid lane here if they want to keep us completely guessing, or rather, if they pick up their 4 here, they're going to keep us guessing into that final phase, which they probably should. But at the same time, what does Slayton want to play? There's no Coddle, there's no Mirana, there's no Skyreth, there's no Snapfire. Really, all the obvious choices are out here. Rubik's still around. Whoa.
Hmm.
That is I want to say an old hero that I don't want to say this team picked, but Lava loved their Phoenix. They would pick it in every situation they possibly could have, but no other team does that. No other team really has been looking at the bird nearly as much as I want to say this previous iteration of this lineup. But hey, dust it off, see what he's actually able to do.
Hmm. Yeah, that's certainly an interesting hero. And as you said, yeah, just throw it in there and see what you can get. Phoenix at, I guess, either the 4 or the 5 still can be useful in the right circumstances. And now you have a lot of team fight strength on the Osmium side. It's just maybe a sort of unexpected pick, but if it works out, if Osmium sort of got the drop on their opponents there, then it could all sort of swing their way, especially since Wildcard had previously banned out the hero that sort of works the best against the Phoenix, right? The Snapfire is gone, and they don't really have massive sort of right clickers in terms of speed with the heroes that they have picked up.
Now, I am very scared of the Timbersoft. They did want to go for it, and I think that's where Wildcard are probably discussing as we speak right now. if they want to slot in and kind of show their hand here, they do have last pick, so they certainly could have a few more tricks along their draft here. Another option they could go for if they want to keep us guessing, they could just throw in the Kunkka. Lanes incredibly well versus what should be a Sand King mid, but also is just very adept at both dealing with the Mars and the Phoenix. Of course, the Phoenix can't dive away from you, and the Mars always has a boat in his arena, which you're also not too happy with. I think right now Wildcard are probably just figuring out what order they want to do things. And no, Queen of Pain. That's a very different pick, but that's certainly going to be a much more difficult lane for Sebas to have to deal with.
And I don't know. You've got some concerns with durability anytime you pick up the Queen of Pain, and Osmium do have a little bit of lockdown to work with, but maybe not enough to consistently get out of Queen of Pain. And if Esk, or presumably Esk, on this hero is able to make the lane more difficult, make those rotations early on to try and find kills in the side lane, then I could see Wildcard falling into that sort of same routine that they did in the previous game, where they just kept pushing that pace of play and building up a really early lead.
Yeah, and I think that it was a little bit more obvious here that they were going to pick their mid laner just because there is still that flexibility in the CK, but I don't know if I wholeheartedly like the Quap. Of course, it's an Esk special. It's one of his favorite heroes. It's one of his most played heroes, but uh, I'm a little bit hesitant. As we usually say with a lot of these drafts, Quap can die. At the end of the day, these super strong heroes, they are still able to be picked off. Of course, we say usually that with Storm Spirit in mind, but I think that's where Queen of Pain is not nearly as potent, but also can certainly die just as easily. I'm a little scared. I'm a little concerned. But in regards to their bans, Wildcard are right on the money. Exactly what I think Kataro would like to play here. They need a big team fight ult. They need someone to go in and run interference. I think the Medusa would have been really the best Kataro hero they could have gone for. Just kind of put everything on top of everything. The Void would have been a little bit more difficult to execute because, of course, everybody's a melee initiator on Team Osmium, so it would have been stepping on each other's toes, even though it would have kind of encapsulated in probably some crazy team fight. But Kataro TB it is.
Okay. That's a comfort pick for him. That doesn't quite give you that sort of teamfight contribution, though, but he can potentially make up for it just with his damage output. But now Wildcard, there's that Timber Saw. It is going to come through after all. That will shift the Chaos Knight to the 1, and Wildcard really did not care much about the Terrorblade getting picked up. They were just sort of ready, and now you've got a lot of strength heroes against the Timber Saw, and a pretty substantial amount of lockdown on the Wildcard side as well.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned here. I think that I guess that is the order that they decided to go in. They picked the Quap because they know that maybe that's going to get banned from Osmium going in forward. But at the end of the day, I think this Timbersaw really brings everything together. I think Osmium are going to need a lot of time here, and they do swap it up, so it will actually be Sebas taking the Mars mid versus the Queen of Pain, which is going to be, I think, a little bit better. I think the Sand King's a little bit more hopeless base damage wise. You'd certainly be using a lot more mana to actually secure last hits, where Sebas should have that covered on the Mars a little bit easier, but that doesn't solve your problem in any way when it comes to dealing with this Timber Saw, and what Devi is actually able to do is a big question mark, I think, in this game. Because again, if they were comfortable with picking it before, they just got Eska's comfort hero just along the way. I think Osmium might have made a mistake here by not banning out that Timber Saw in their final phase here. I think the Pango would have been even less potent than what this is going to do. But hey, that's where give Katara lane, give him farm, get him a Scotty, then we can talk about a game.
Right. We'll see what that TB does for them, because that is the linchpin of this lineup. There's really no getting around it. The TB has to have success, otherwise Osmium are going to be in some trouble. And of course, if you're Wildcard, that means, well, you know what your target is, right? Kills onto any member of the lineup is going to be big, but you can apply pressure to that Terrorblade, maybe harass him a little bit when he starts shifting into that jungle, then you've just kind of broken the back of Osmium's game plan.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what they're actually able to accomplish here. Of course, if they do exceptionally well in their lanes, they do have this very nice early timing where you'd get Draken getting his Blink Dagger around that 9 to 10 minute mark, Sebas probably falling at 12 to 13, where they do have, again, very similar agency to their opponents that Wildcard really had in game one, but at the same time, it really is going to be a matter of if you get your kills, how much is it going to cost you? Can you defend buildings whenever you are out of your abilities? And how potent is this Terrorblade actually going to be? Wildcard are not the best at chasing down those TB illusions in the lanes, but finding a way for Guitarro to get as much farm as possible.
Let's go.
I got scared for a second. I thought it was you talking, Kmart. That's a terrifying voice line. Oh my god.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a fun one. Always just gotta be on the lookout for it, but no, I let you talk. You talk as much as you like.
I
But
was like, are we quiet now? Are we whispering? Are we talking about? Are they smoked? What's going on here?
the only thing better than that, instead of a whisper, would be a voice line that just says, "Shut up, we're smoking." Not gonna get that one. I don't know if that passes the Valve filter, but all the same, getting into the laning stage here, we'll see just how much Kataro can find. As we said, he's the all-important factor. This laning stage does not have to go well for him. If he just sort of pulls okay-ish, you can always still just rotate into the jungle and pick yourself back up a little bit. But if you're Osmium in this situation, you would really love to just never have to play from behind with this Terrorblade.
Yeah, you want to play ahead, and he certainly has a winning matchup in front of him. He is playing versus a CK. You know, he really needs to be careful. He can't be the one that they start the fight onto, but losing the lane would not be a great start to really the turn of events here. But that's also why it's a reflection level 1. He's got a Bane, and for the exact same reasons we were praising the Bane in the first draft, it will stabilize you a little bit more than some of the other 5s.
You've got a little bit more to work with this time around as well. Maybe not so much once Divide picks up levels, but for now at least, you can just kind of go all in, bullying this Timbersaw without that reactive armor. It's not nearly as durable, so Osmium trying to get their hits in while they can. Meantime, take a look at that other side lane. How are things going up top? Sammy, well, I don't know. It's going to be kind of interesting for him. He's level 1. He took the disruption first, so as of right now, his options are kind of limited, but he can still be annoying. Could see, once they get the levels up, get a Reality Rift, you get a Chaos Bolt, you can maybe throw out that Soul Catcher as well, and burn through a pretty substantial amount of HP in a short amount of time.
Ooh, interesting. CS secured.
That's that's what it was for. A lot of mana being used by Draken there, unfortunately, as Sammy just trying to make sure Sladen really couldn't get over to the camp, but now, yeah, that's an opportunity, I suppose, if they get the Chaos Bolt down that little bit faster, but Sladen is going to be able to Icarus Dive away. The problem is Icarus Dive's on a pretty just nasty cooldown, so Sladen has that play every once in a while, but it's far from consistent in terms of his ability to get away if that aggression comes at him.
Ooh, meanwhile, Sebas, at least he has a water in to put in his bottle, but Esk is certainly working the matchup. He certainly has to take a lot more damage here, but is Sladen body blocked? He's got Icarus, but I think he's gone.
Take him down. First blood going over to Yves, so not only do you give up first blood, you hand it over to the Chaos Knight. That's not quite the way that you were hoping that one would go, and this is going to be sort of the interesting part as well. You were talking about it with regards to the Terrorblade. TB against Chaos Knight, your Terrorblade still sort of has that advantage the later we go, but the CK is the one who can maybe take more advantage of early momentum. If he starts building himself up quickly, then he's going to be ready to go far, far before that Terrorblade on the other side.
Yeah, and as we always talk about, it's always the CK with the armlet showing up mid. It's the CK with the Blink Dagger bringing you to the fight, and he is a CK that really won't have too many Phantasm illusions in this game, just because you are playing versus that Sand King, you're playing versus the Epi, but ooh, I'm also looking bottom. Cat U's taking so much damage here. Oh,
Nice
what a
nightmare.
sleep!
But the Bushwhack's still a little bit stronger, so Alexo gets the kill. Now, Kataro's not in a great spot. He's got a lot of wand charges, though, so okay, he's able to pop those to walk away, but still Wildcard striking again, and that was such an interesting fight. Divide was the one falling back for the longest time, and then they recognize that the Bane's maybe taken a step or two too far forward and quickly turn it around.
And Katara, he's really doing what he needs to do. He's got a lot of last hits here on the TV already, but at the same time. It really is now Devi's time to shine. As long as he can get this full wave to himself, Alexa's take it a step out. And as we always bring up with Timbersaw, the faster you get level 6, the sooner the safe laner needs to rotate away from you. You can't really do anything in that matchup once that happens.
He's going to be able to sort of hold his own right now. Kataro just straight up doesn't want that kind of fight. Meanwhile, speaking of fights up in the top lane, we're going to try and jump in on Slayton. There's the disruption into the Reality Rift, into the Chaos Bolt. They should be able to find it. Eves has to take maybe a tower shot or two, but he's going to be just fine. And Draken, he popped to the wand. Maybe he'd, have enough mana for the burrow, but I don't think he would have had the damage to go for that kill anyway. So he's just got to let a teammate go down, and all of a sudden, we're looking at 3 straight kills for Wildcard. Meanwhile, mid, Esk just got a bottle refill from Alexo, so he can continue to apply some pressure to this mid matchup. And, well, all the lanes are looking pretty good for Wildcard to this point. Alexo even snags a bounty rune out from under Katyu's face as well.
Yeah, I think they're really satisfied with their early game. And of course, Osmium, they're still keeping their head above water. We always are going to highlight Kataro just being able to stabilize his lane pretty easily here. But I think the problem is just not really able to shut down with the Bane nearly as much as I think they'd otherwise be happy with. At the same time, once your Queen of Pain hits level 6, I think Kataro needs to be very cautious whenever that Queen of Pain stops showing. It's just simply, you could be not looking at your map, the Sonic Wave comes through, you die because you're up in the wave and you feel confident trading into this Timbersaw, and you die, and you give up a huge advantage. And at the same time, that's where Osmium, they can't fix each other's lanes by just constantly rotating. Even when Sebas hits level 6, the fight needs to really come to him. He kind of has a slow go-abouts when it comes to that rotation. Same with Draken. Not like the Sand King is really able to do much before that Blink Dagger. They kind of have to sit and farm for a lot of this early game.
While Alexo trying to stand guard over the Invis rune, but Katyu is coming in, so Hoodwink does have to grab it, but that means he's able to do a little bit of scouting. He sees Kataro over here in the jungle, and can't really do much more than that, but to slow him down, take some of the illusions away, that's just going to make it a little bit tougher for Kataro to farm, and really, as of right now, that's kind of the name of the game for Wildcard. Just slow down the TB and see where that gets you, because we haven't seen too many opportunities for them to just go straight in for the kill, especially considering the Timbersaw's build. No points up in the Whirling Death and hasn't hit his ult yet, but he is still trying to do it with the chain. This is a little bit aggressive for sure, but there's not really much in the way of repercussions. Katyu can't do anything to really turn this around, so Kataro was just left to fend for himself, and he can't.
Oh, he's got to go.
Katyu? Yeah, now they've got the ult, and this is not good for the Bane. Brain Sap gets him a little bit of extra health, but I can just sort of keep this chase going as long as he wants, although the Nightmare...
Up. Yeah.
A bit tough, but he still got it. They find the kill. Meanwhile, up top, Draken got his courier sniped out, and now the hero himself might be in some trouble. Can they get the vision? Yep, they can. Oh, okay, hold on. Burrow Strike. Burrow Strike beats Reality Rift on that one, but good news for the Sand King is that he's able to fall back. Bad news is they lost their bottom lane.
Yeah, and really, I think that the one collapse where they push in, Kataro only walks back to that lane because Devi is level 5. He doesn't think he's going to get really killed off there like he did, but they keep the card alive, they get the push. It is before really Devi has any sustainable item. It's just very easy, and I mean, 3k gold lead at 8 minutes. This is starting to get a little bit rough here. And Alexo, okay.
Hey.
Finally, something coming up Osmium, but at least they get a play there. It is pretty expensive. You do lose your Arena of Blood, but it's the play that you can afford to make because Devi isn't going to be coming mid until that 10-minute cart is alive. But once that is there, well, you're going to have to deal with the Timbersaw in the mid lane, and that's something that I really think Osmium are not very well equipped to deal with right now.
Yeah, I mean, the heroes that you would want to sit in front of a tower and just sort of hold the line Tidehunter style are all strength heroes that the Timbersaw can heavily punish. And speaking of punishment, Sladen had to wait for the Icarus. He's able to get away, but takes a lot of damage in the meantime. And while that's happening up top, there's some pressure being applied here as well. Katyu gets hit by the bushwhack. Eska's coming in.
Dead.
They would love to, just get that kill without having to use anything. Eska's actually, he's holding a point. Doesn't want to actually skill up the Sonic Wave just yet if he doesn't have to. Maybe he can get a little bit more farming in with the Scream of Pain maxed out first, so this is a luxury for the Queen of Pain that you don't normally see. Normally you need that Sonic Wave to make plays, but Wildcard 6 kills on the board in 9 minutes have not necessarily needed S to be that playmaker. So he's able to just sort of hold and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, this is an interesting smoke. They're going to see Sebas on the low ground in the mid lane just a sec here. I feel as if they were looking for Guitarro, though. I don't think this was ever intended for the Mars, and unless Sammy Boy's level 6, I
Devi's
think
here,
this is a bit
though.
of a reach, but Devi, yeah.
Gonna go for it. There's gonna be the spear, though. It stuns up Esk, so you don't have that nuke damage coming in just yet, and Slayton is TP'd forward as well, but this is getting a little bit risky. Esk just needs the angle. Still holding onto the ult. Doesn't want to throw it out just yet. They were already able to take down Sebas, though, so now at this point, maybe you just fight without it. Yeah. Okay, never mind. They do throw it out there. A little bit too late to matter as Cat U goes down, but Esk needs to blink away. He's able to do so. Draken just doesn't have enough damage. It's even with a maxed out Sandstorm, it's just not enough, and Osmium continue to struggle here, unable to find any return kills, and Slayton, I don't know if you really want to be there. He's going to have to pop the ult, and he actually got out the Fire Spirit, so, well, that works out fantastically, actually. S goes down to the DOT, Alexo's on the run. Let's see if they can catch up to him, though. They can't burn him out with that Sun Ray just yet. Now they've got to deal with Eves, but they still take this fight. It's just the CK right now. They're going to hit him up with a Nightmare. The Burrow Strike comes in. He's going to channel out the Epee. They even turn around looking for the ult from Catyu, and, well, they have to throw everything they have into that fight, ET, but they do get it. Eves goes down, and Lexo has to avoid that spirit. He will do so. And now Slayton, is he going to get punished? S comes in. Well, I don't know. You get the kill onto the Hoodwink. I think Slayton's still going to be okay with that.
Yeah, I was gonna mention earlier not having a spirit vessel really built up or even looked at by the Sand King. You'd usually think is kind of a mistake here, but with all those kills going the way of the Phoenix, I mean, there's your vessel carrier. Sure, it'll work. It'll do its job, and unfortunately, the mid tower does get taken out. I think with Devi being around and without the grip, yeah, Cat U will have a slow and almost assured death.
Yep. Okay. He gets a Nightmare down onto S before he dies. Not going to matter, but just a little moral victory there. But at this point, this is still rough. As you said, they got the tower, they found the kills, but they still end up losing that tier 1 mid. So between the mid and the bot towers gone, this Southside jungle is not looking overly secure for a Terrorblade who desperately needs that space.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think Osmium almost waltzed into that previous set of kills. They certainly can work with a little bit more initiative now that Draken has his Blink Dagger especially. You'd love it to be in a similar time as your Mars getting it, but that's just not on the table right now. So this is still fairly far away, but all you need is a Blink Burrow Strike into the arena follow-up, and that can kill pretty much every hero on the map, aside from Devi Llama, who I think is still fairly safe in whatever he's going to want to do in this game, even though he certainly is playing a little bit more cautious himself here. But that's where Osmium, they've got grip coming up in a second here. They really are looking for any kill just to get them a little bit more net worth here. And during all of that as well, Kataro was farming, you know, he's looking for that Scotty. He's rushing it after the Yasha, so, you know, things are not all coming up wild card right now, but they still just have this advantage coming from just Devi playing arguably his best hero in a very uncounterable game.
Pretty good on the Timbersaw. Meanwhile, that CK's got the armlet, so could see a little bit more proactive play from that Chaos Knight working now towards the BKB as well. So you are going to have your carry involved in quite a few of these fights moving forward, and see if Osmium are going to be prepared to deal with that. For now, though, both sides taking a little bit of a step back, trying to really solidify that first set of major items across the board before we go back in. And it's actually perfect for Sebas, because with this much extra time, he might actually be able to pick up that Blink Dagger. Although, Draken is going to make his movement. They jump in onto Alexo. They're able to blow him up quickly. The Fiend's Grip is now applied to the Chaos Knight, but not going to actually last long enough. They'll lose Draken as well as Catyu, and the fight is now kind of falling apart. Slayton would love to get away without having to ult, but he will pop it. Sebas turns around, gets the arena, has the double damage rune. Sammy dead. Eve's dead as well. Slayton will sacrifice himself, but 2 kills up for the Mars. A TP home. He's got just... Okay, he needs a maybe wait a few seconds, but he's got just enough money now for the Blink Dagger, and I think you take that. You get more in the way of gold, maybe not experience, but still a very solid maneuver for them, although if they lose Kataro, it's all just going to go down the drain. They have to keep him alive, and Devi actually does not really win that fight right now. He needed those reactive armor stacks to sort of build back up, so he wasn't really able to do much and just eventually backs away.
Yeah, and as we usually talk about with the Timbersaw, the one time you can kill him is when he's in between lanes, when he's not just constantly in a creep wave, and that is one of the drawbacks of the Timbersaw. To do your job, you need to give up your position. You need to show where you are on the map, and when you're not showing, you're not getting stacks unless you're keeping your stacks maintained up in, maybe a creep wave, but that's also where this Terra Blade can constantly do this. It's always the pressure being put on the side lanes with those conjure image illusions, just walking them out. And there is this Terrorblade that is not getting involved, who is just farming up peacefully. He's got incredible CS, he's got very good net worth, and he is only 2 components away. Meanwhile, though, Sebas tanks the gank. Unfortunate.
Does end up going down. He was able to purchase up his Blink Dagger, though, before that gank found him, so you now have that item online, and it is going to be a big one for Osmium. Blinks up on the 2 sort of primary initiators for them means they can afford to get a little bit more aggressive. Meanwhile, I believe that was an Aether. Yeah, Aether lens up on Alexop, so your Hoodwink is just as annoying, but now she can be annoying from even further away. And right on cue, going to try to annoy Draken a little bit here, force him to burrow strike to the low ground, but now they're on the hunt. They would love to go after the Sand King, but he's got some backup. The Nightmare was used by Catyu. He just TPs himself away, so okay. They pull out with everybody. They do have to sort of abandon that push in the top lane, but they avoid any further casualties.
Yeah, and I think they'll take that every single day of the week. And there is, I was going to say, a smoke, it feels like, coming because your opponents are so far on their side of the map. They can really do this, I think, without worrying here. Sebas still needs to be careful, though. There's still this ward that caught him out before, a ward that has not been taken out just yet here. But I think that's where Osmium, they want the engage on the mid tower. If they find these picks, and especially if they can get Esk just on the creep wave mid, they would look for that immediately into the building, and there wouldn't really be a good response here. Both these cores, oh, the blink!
Blinks away, so they have to stun up Eves instead, but they do have the lockdown onto the Queen of Pain. The Fiend Script's coming in. They even pop the Supernova just to make sure there's no one who can save Esk's life, so they will lose the Queen of Pain. There's a buyback available. He's not using it just yet, looking to see if his teammates can just sort of handle this fight by themselves, and so far, they're looking okay. They got the return kill onto Sebas. Can they track anyone else down? Devi looking for it, but Draken makes the move first. Blinks in, gets the burrow strike. Sammy dropping low, not dead just yet. They'll finally bring him down, but at the cost of their own Sand King, so these trades not favoring them very much. And Devi, how much further are you willing to go here? Because his teammates are definitely not following him.
Okay. I think that's a sleep and run away kind of sleep.
Yep. That'll be the end of it. So, I suppose not a bad fight if you're Osmium, but you do still lose 2 cores. You're able to sort of get a little bit more than your opponents in terms of the direct gold gain, but that is one thing. They would love to be able to take these fights a little bit more cleanly, but at the end of the day, you pull even on the kills. Kataro is, oh boy, it was farming just fine, and now they're actually going to turn. Eves is the one in trouble. He's going to pop the BKB, but look at the reinforcements. They're bringing heroes in. Devi's wrapping around. Esk has the Sonic. They would love to just be able to get in there and assassinate Kataro, take the Sunder play completely off the table, but it's not really working out that way so far. In fact, Alexo's the one who's just going to get kind of jumped here and taken down a little bit too far forward on that Hoodwink, and now Sammy may be punished as well. He tries to go for the D-Ward. Suppose he gets it, but that wasn't 100% worthwhile, especially if Wildcard aren't actually going to make a move after taking that ward out.
Yeah, just feels like that was Wildcard playing around the fact that they still have this deep vision, and then the supports, I think, being a little bit too far forward. And Esk, that's unfortunate that the Bane wasn't there in any follow-up capacity. If he gets the Nightmare off, then there's another volley of stuns coming from Draken and Sebas. Maybe that kill actually happens, but I think now, though, Wildcard should certainly feel the pressure a little bit. Again, Devi is still looking great. The Timbersaw still looking uncontestable with the Lotus Orb. Can't get sundered either. He's still feeling strong. But the problem is that the rest of the cores are not really falling nearly as quickly. It's where the Queen of Pain still needs to do the very basic order. Esk has also gone for the least greedy build he could possibly look for and getting this BKB as soon as possible, which is not even going to solve all of his problems with the grip still always being a threat. And at the same time, there's still this risk of Yamsun falling behind, playing versus a carry who is not itemizing for, I want to say, as safe items, but is certainly going to feel much more powerful, especially once that meta goes down. I don't think Yamsun can really stay in the fight. He has a BKB built up of his own, but it's where double BKB is a time Wildcard need to spin in their favor, and if they don't, well, it becomes a liability because it is coming out so much sooner than your opponents.
Always sort of the double-edged sword of that BKB purchase, right? The earlier you get it, the earlier you start sort of whittling down the duration. So Wildcard are going to have to do a little bit of a balancing act here. Obviously, you still want the BKBs, so you'll take that concern if it means you get the benefit of the Magic community, but you need to try and make some plays here. Sebas would be a nice target for them if they can get this cutoff angle. Oh, not going to be able to do it. The Blink Dagger gets Sebas out of there, but if you're Wildcard, you need to keep looking for plays like that. If you can't find the kills, maybe just push out this lane. There's still a tier 1 standing in this top lane that they could probably group up and take down, but not really seeing that emphasis at the moment.
Yeah, and I think the reason that you're seeing them stall out for these objectives is that A, they don't really have the easiest way into Roche, and B, there's always Kitaro on the other side of the map pushing in 2 lanes at the same time while keeping him centralized. And I think that's where Wildcard could very possibly look for another smoke. They really need to get in between the lanes here, because without that, you're not killing the illusions very quickly at the very least, and you're also not killing Kitaro, which just means this TB is finding something anyways, and they're kind of having this game of cat and mouse play out top lane. They've got a very nice observer where it's scouting them out, so maybe they find anything top, but just a lot of time spent and a lot of heroes just stuck on this top side of the map, and it doesn't land yet again.
They just can't find anything right now. They're dancing around looking for it, but the ability to close that gap just really is not there. Maybe that changes with the Chaos Knight now getting his hands on a Blink Dagger, but well, I don't know. They keep on sort of whiffing like this, as you've pointed out repeatedly. Kitaro, I mean, he doesn't care. He's playing PvE right now. He's just going to keep on farming, and if his teammates can...
top.
Oh, man. If his teammates can build up this much time, they'll take it, as Sebas is finally going to get jumped. And they should have the kill here. He'll look for a TP, but it won't complete, so... The Blink Dagger there on the Chaos Knight is going to be a bit of a difference maker, and they finally get it, but that was third rotation into that top lane that they had made, and they now finally find that kill.
The big mistake would be if Esk dies bottom in any capacity, but I don't think Esk is going to make that mistake, and Sammy Boy is not going to let him make that mistake, which is, you know, great to see from your teammates. But at the same time, I do think there's a very tangible threat that Wildcard now have. I think that getting that Blink Dagger is probably going to be that big game changer that they've been missing. It's where Osmium certainly have a much easier time, but
they still got the Fiend's grip. There's a disruption, though. Okay. Gonna break up that combo. Sammy, he may tick down here. No, he won't, because Eves comes in. There's a Reality Rift into the Chaos Bolt, into the Sonic Wave. Sladen taken down. Cat, you now in trouble, trying to get away. The Sharpshooter hit, though, does most of the work, and Eves will finish it off for the double kill. So, little bit of a concern there as that first sort of play came down onto Esk's head, but Wildcard rush reinforcements to the point of attack. They come away with 2 support kills, maybe not the highest in the world, as Kitaro was just able to sort of kind of TP out, but that could have been pretty horrific if Esk had actually been locked down for the full duration on that Fiend's grip.
Yeah, and that's why, Sammy Boy, you love to see it. You love to see that support play strengthens the Queen of Pain by just being there. Unfortunately, Kitaro does have things to farm. He's got places to be, and you do see Wildcard consistently having to bring 3 or 4 heroes just to make sure that split push isn't happening. And at the same time, I keep on mentioning they want to get an objective. Wildcard want a clear-cut advantage to play around. The problem is that they need to stay on the same side of the map as Kitaro, otherwise their lanes are such a big problem they can't spend time bottom. They can't spend time to stick on these objectives, and they can't do Roche because their lineup isn't really capable of it. Now this is a little bit of a crazy smoke. This is BKB on Kitaro, but no meta. He'll have to walk in and right-click if he wanted to help his teammates' initiation here, but on the low ground...
They make the jump in. Draken, though, is still going to channel out the ult, so he can return fire as the supports will be traded out. Both will buy back immediately, though. And we're going to reset this fight. Alexo TP's in. The Bane coming through from the middle lane. They're going to see where this fight leads at this point. Is Draken going to get himself pulled in? There's the Reality Rift into that Chaos Bolt. The sharpshooter connection from the bot back. Alexo will find the kill. And Taro, you got to be very careful here. You don't have that Sunder play because Devi is sitting on the Lotus. So Terrorblade backs away. Wildcard are the ones who control the pit, but what can they do with this control? Going after Roshan here is still incredibly risky. They are going to try. Sebes scouts it out with the spear. Throwing some fire spirits in there as well. Taro's going to send in some mirror illusions, but I don't know. This is a very strange one. Wildcard trying to sort of force their opponent's hand a little bit, but Osmium do a pretty spectacular job of not overreacting.
Yeah, it's very difficult to actually break onto the high ground here. Wildcard would love to cut them off at the knees, just make it so that it's really not a fight that they can just seamlessly walk into. And at the same time, you know, talk about 731C changes. No longer dealing that bonus damage with the Chaos Strike to Roshan means that that Rosh is not happening nearly as fast as they really needed to. And now they're smoking up with meta. Now this is a threat, one that Sammy Boy just simply cannot survive versus. And if they really want to, meta into the pit, I think it's time. I think Katara might just press the issue. They want to pick...
That's a big nightmare, though. Sammy's got to buy back. They're looking to defend, but there's going to be the Fiend's Grip coming in. Can he get the disruption off? Yes, he does. They will still lose Alexo, though, but... I mean, if Devi is still fighting, they're not in a bad spot here. I think Sammy may get taken down by the Terrorblade on the other side, but he's actually getting away. Now, it's actually going to be Eves coming in. They get the stun down onto the TB. They're going to drop him low. He didn't get the stun off. He didn't even pop the BKB. He's just straight dead. Kataro down. Draken getting pulled back into the fight as well. Meanwhile, Esk just keeping the rest of the lineup really as far back as possible, forcing Slayton to TP. Sebes on the run as well. And I don't know. If you're Kataro, I understand wanting to hold a BKB charge for as long as possible, but that felt maybe a little overly cautious, overly sort of hesitant to use it, because if he pops the BKB, most of that lockdown simply can't be applied to him.
And I mean, it's so well executed from Wildcard. Of course, Alexo's on the sideline that entire fight. Devi goes into the 1v5. He takes all of the aggression. Half of Osmium have to ignore him. They still don't have Supernova. While Sammy Boy gets kited back by the Conjure image, he places a sentry for Esk to kill the ward on the high ground so he doesn't see the CK coming in. I mean, it's Dota in motion there. So many things had to go right for Wildcard. And it just happens. And the TP doesn't pop BKB. And I mean, you could say it's as simple as that, but so many moving pieces there for Wildcard to actually make that play happen. And I mean, hey, it's just an Aegis. Not that much of the map actually changes, but it's an Aegis that you don't have to worry about giving up to your opponents anymore, which is massive.
And yeah, to the point you were making, I don't know if that BKB changes the overall outcome of the fight, but if Kataro pops the BKB, maybe he lives. If he doesn't pop the BKB, he was just straight dead, as we saw, so... Oh. I don't know. Maybe the extra second of duration will come in handy later, but for now, that is a very tough death for him, especially if Wildcard can keep this momentum going and catch Kataro again. Now you pop the BKB. There you go. Just going to be able to walk away, or maybe not. Look at Alexo. Trying to get that angle on the back here and keep Kataro sort of in the fight, but his teammates are going after a much, much easier kill as they do find the pickoff onto Slayton, so... Yeah. You would have loved to chase Kataro there, but you would have been basically pushing past that tier 2 tower. Take the easier kill and continue to try and establish more control over this map as Draken is in trouble and Draken is dead. Wow.
Oh, man.
He's not very survivable with this build, though. He's got the Blink, he's got the Veil, he went for the Shard, so... I mean, if he gets caught like that, he's taken down pretty quickly.
Yeah, and, well, if you pop the BKB on the Terrorblade, you don't need to play in the same map as him because he's terrified of getting stunned and caught. So that's just where Wildcard finally get their way into their first tier 2 in the game, and it's going to work. At the same time, Devi's looking to cut the waves, keep Kataro out from getting any of this, and what we will start to see from Kataro is that he is going to start being level starved. He was getting at least one lane to himself, or at least the jungle, but now he can't show anywhere, and when the Conjure images are killing the creep waves as far away from the hero as they are, Kataro is a very low level core right now, especially compared to the Wildcard cores.
Take a look there. He's level 17. The lowest core hero on Wildcard is Esk at 19. So have a clear-cut advantage on that front. And now, with Sammy hitting up some of these illusions with the disruption, they even have a nice way to just sort of counter out some of these pushes as well. So it's just really a tightening of the sort of map here for Osmium. They just don't have a lot of options available to them at the moment. And, well, I'm not really sure what plays can be made by Osmium members other than the TB, right? Draken, he's got his BK, excuse me, not Draken. Draken's got his Blink Dagger up, but is there any other sort of game-changing item that he can grab here as he's just trying to keep himself away from this fight? Sebas is kind of in a familiar or similar position outside of just building more damage. He's in a weird lack of, I guess, kill potential himself. So this is a little bit awkward. You are trying to make space for Kitaro, but who makes that space and how with the lineup that they've got right now?
Yeah, and now you are also seeing that once Wildcard get actually onto these objectives, even though Kataro's doing a really fine job of still finding his farm regardless, as soon as they can narrow where they're playing on the map, and of course Katyu looks like he's going to get taken down by Esk here, just one more, auto attack. But anytime this Timbersaw is showing on a certain side of the map, it's Osmium who are the ones that need to flip. The split push is not being nearly as potent here, and you keep seeing the Osmium captain drawing on the map saying we have to push out lanes, we can only push out lanes, but they're just getting caught. There's just too many heroes set up. If it's not Yamsun showing in a lane, then it's always going to be Alexo or Esk finding pickoffs. I mean, how many times have we seen a single hero get caught on Osmium's side while just singly trying to push out these waves? And I think really it's the Orchids built up on Wildcard that are just leading to a lot of these kills, and Osmium are not ready, simply itemization-wise. There's no easy Dispel, there's no Yule Scepters, there's no Lotus Orbs, there's no real easy way to find their way out of those pickoffs. That's why Sebas is probably the only one getting farm on his team, because he could just simply BKB TP away. The game is not really coming as easily as I think you'd hope it to be, but that's where, you have got a TB, right? All it takes is one thrown fight, and then you're kind of back in things, but Wildcard are just taking almost a deafening lead at this point.
Just continuing to apply pressure to the supports in particular. Really, they're just taking any kills that they can find, but Bane's sitting at 0-11, Sladen is sitting at 3-6, even Draken's starting to sort of feel that pressure, so it's not a fun time for Osmium. Some good news coming, though, as the the Aegis does time out. So you don't have really two lives on Eves anymore, but that didn't matter for the past couple of minutes. They've still been playing exactly the same way, and it's not like Osmium really had opportunities to get aggressive onto that CK regardless, so doesn't really change too much. But now desperation perhaps setting in. Full 5-man smoke from Osmium. They're going to look for something here, but where can they go where they would not just kind of run into the whole of Wildcard? Because you take a look at their positioning. First of all, they're clear on the other side of the map. Second, they're not really split up in the slightest.
Yeah, and this is the shot in the dark where Osmium, they're trying to smoke towards their vision right now. They've got a nice ward that they placed a very, very long time ago. They'll probably place more vision, but I also don't think they're going to want to cut this mid wave, and that's where Devi already moving in here. Unfortunately, it's going to become very obvious as, Devi circles the entire enemy team. As soon as this creep wave hits the mid-tier 3, then they're going to know the call to retreat is going to happen, and then suddenly Osmium's shifty play is just going to fall through their fingers. At the very least, they will be able to cut mid-wave with the Terrorblade, but at the same time, look at Devi. Soul Push, Flamethrower, it's a lot of damage, free damage. Not really much that they can do. He just kind of gets to do this whenever he wants to.
Yep. Best that they can do on the Osmium side is to send in the Sand King for a Blink Burrow, but there's not nearly enough in the way of actual damage output to burn through someone like the Timbersaw. So Devi leaves, TP's top, he'll deal with the split push, and Wildcard still very much in control here, up 14k, and now we see if Osmium can sort of push out across the map without getting themselves caught here. They've moved into this west side jungle, but the second they do, you see Wildcard starting to move into position. They would love this fight. A big team fight win for them here could just shatter through those high ground defenses if they can start taking away defenders. Can they actually find anyone? This is a nice little split by Osmium, not getting themselves caught in the meantime. We see the Daedalus finished off by your Terrorblade, so Kitaro, he's still just doing everything he possibly can here to build himself up.
He is ready to brawl. I would love to see an Ags picked up as well, just something that's going to allow him, or even a Blink Dagger, just so he can actually get on these targets and right-click them a little bit more in those stun durations. But unfortunately for Wildcard, they're the ones that do, at the end of the day, break the silence here. They have to be the ones that get the initiation. They're the ones that actually have to kill Osmium on their high ground here. And until then, this game will continue, and Katara will continue to farm in this top lane. And I think that's where second Roche is certainly going to change things up. We'll see if it's a pleasant respawn timer. Of course, earlier respawn timer will heavily favor the team that's ahead here, but there's so much vision placed from Osmium. I almost feel like they're going to want to give it a shot, and all it takes is one illusion to scout it out here, but they will know that Roche is going to be respawning at least fairly soon. But I think Draken's dead in the mid lane again, and if they checked it right now, Wildcard would go immediately into the pit.
They don't really have anyone actually checking it out, unfortunately. So, Vision not quite serving them well on that front, but they still have so much control of the map right now. Devi, he was able to deny his tower, so you're not going to give up as much gold, but it is a tier 2 down in the top lane, I suppose, but you look at the status of the other towers elsewhere on the map, there's really not a whole lot that Osmium are going to be able to do with that in and of itself. Meanwhile, they do finally get the vision over the pit. They're going to move their way in. Roche getting taken fast. Katyu will do as much as a Bane is capable of in this scenario, which is that Nightmare and basically nothing else. And, okay, hold on. They send the Mirrored Illusions in, but they're able to get the Aegis still in their hands. It's just no fight, okay? If you're Osmium, they decide it really was not worth the risk of going in, fighting up against a CK who had 2 lives, so... Got Eves with the Aegis. He's able to get the Shard, so he's got that Chaos Bolt upgraded. They did nerf the bonus cast range a little bit, cut it in half, effectively, from 300 to plus 150, but it is still going to be very useful for the CK in terms of just getting into those fights that little bit faster and from a little bit further away.
And I'm kind of waiting to see. They smoked up very confidently after the fact there, I guess hoping to find an initial break on the mid lane, but Wildcard, and knowing that Katara had used the meta, it's kind of obvious that they might be looking for something, and it's not like he's just going to sit in his triangle and farm any stacks, because he's got a Daedalus. He farms very quickly on the TV, so I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a whiff here, and they certainly do know that meta's on cooldown, and it's a very long cooldown. I feel like with these cards, we should be seeing Wildcard actually make an attempt, at least at the bottom racks here in Sebas. Oh.
Okay. He's able to pop his BKB, so he's going to be okay. Draken, meanwhile, goes in on the backline, looking to take down Sammy. Not actually able to kill him off just yet, as he is falling back, but now Sebas is the one who's in trouble. They're going to stun him up with the Chaos Bolt. They'll take him down. Draken TP's back with the last few moments of his BKB, but this is not a great fight. They've lost 2. They have buyback available on both, and at this point, it feels like they'll need it, but where is their TB? He is currently... Well, he's currently in the Wildcard base, pushing a tier 3 tower. That's not bad, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to push fast enough. His presence may just be needed on this front line as Wildcard are going to push their way in. Buyback came through from Sebas. He's taken down immediately. Katyu did the same. He will die again as S picks up the double. And now the Terrorblade will return, but by this point, it feels like it's a little bit too late. He was able to get a kill onto Sammy there, but... This is, oh, okay. This is a little bit rough. As Eves goes in, he's going to pop that first life, but if they can get Kataro here, it's going to be worth it. He doesn't have Sunder for 30 seconds. They've taken him down. His buyback is unavailable as Slade and Supernova will pop, but it's just not enough. Draken's in here as well, but his Sandstorm is really the only damage that he can do. Wildcard. They've got to brute force it a little bit there, ET, but they get pretty much everything they wanted.
Now the question is, can they really do anything substantial to slow down the rest of Wildcard? They don't have BKBs. There's an overwhelming blink. I think Devi is really looking for the kill into Draken here. They don't actually have any vision, though, so dealing with the Sand King is a little bit obnoxious here. There's no way Devi dies. 0% chance that Devi dies here, but this is not the seamless transition that I think they were hoping for. Now, Draken does need to be careful, though. There is, yeah, just straight up dust. And,
yeah. Forces out his BKB as he will fall back, but that means Wildcard can now get onto that structure. They'll take the tier 3 tower mid, and they're directly onto the racks. However, starting to get some heroes back up. Katyu returns. Fiend's Grip is at the ready, but still 15 seconds out from Sebas, 20 seconds from the Terrorblade. So Katyu could make an initiation, but there wouldn't be anyone to deal any damage. Wildcard, well, they get that second lane of racks, and they back away.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, with the hero play from Draken, I feel like they could have swung for three, but instead they are not megas. They actually have a lane to work with. Of course, it's still a very dominating position. A lot of gold in the pockets of Wildcard after claiming two full sets of racks. A lot of those big items are now queued up by a lot of these heroes, but you also bought back on the Queen of Pain. There are still options for Osmium. You know, it's hard to say that they're completely out of it just yet, not to mention that when Kataro actually did TP back. He didn't have meta. That wasn't your Terrorblade fighting at full force here. And it looks like he is going to buy out for his Lincoln Sphere here. So he's going to look for one more big item before the game is actually all said and done here. But there's certainly a losable game still here for Wildcard. Everything is not stacked up against them. They're in a very, very good position, but it's where they still need to be very cautious with how they do their job here, especially when it comes to the high ground.
Still winnable. As long as Guitaro is still alive and farming, then they will have hope. It's sort of the nature of the Terrorblade, but it is going to be tough for them. Down 26k, down 2 lanes of racks. They need... Well, they really need to take some of these fights cleanly, but on the wildcard side of things, they, well, they're not immediately sort of pushing to go back in. That was kind of their high point in terms of aggression, right? Having the Aegis to work with. So we could see them maybe take a step back at least for a little while, try and get maybe 1 or 2 more items, and then go hunting again. Because they can't afford to wait too long. Otherwise, no, Kataro's going to pretty much have every item that he could possibly want or have space for.
Yeah, and that is where I think we could see them going for just their win the game play here. Divide, he's got Blink Hex right now, and okay. It's a little bit of a stretch, though. Unfortunately, reveals it in a little bit of a lackluster way, but at the same time, this is very dangerous. Osmium, they've got a creep wave out bottom. They're very far out of their base, very confidently out of their base here, but they still need to stack their teamfight spells beautifully. They still need to keep everything kind of involved in their fight here. They still do not want to kill Divide Llama, though, and that's kind of the funny part of this game. They can't really afford to break on him, at least I don't think so. They'd love to find every other member of Wildcard aside from him, but that's where the cut in. Look at these wildcard heroes coming in behind. They're going to break on the smoke here, and they're going to see Kataro.
They try to go on to Divide, but that means that the back door is wide open. They're going to push their way in. The Supernova does get popped, though, so he is trying to buy some time, Sladen, and he might be successful because the Fiend's Grip actually locked the CK down. Sladen was able to live. He gets off that hit, and they are going to take down Eves. He'll buy back immediately, though, looking to rejoin this fight. Kataro, meanwhile, did get hit up by that Boomerang, so he is going to take that little bit of extra damage, but he's still able to get the Sunder off, trades his life with Eves, and now all of a sudden the CK is actually perfectly fine because there's no one left to back up that Terrorblade. Kataro ended up fighting by himself. The rest of Wildcard did a perfect job of cutting the support off. Cutting him off at the knees.
And I think, oh, he's 75 away from buyback. I don't think we're going to see a defense regardless, though. I think without the Supernova, without the Arena, things are looking a little bit hopeless here. They aren't able to kill Draken, but I feel like this might just be it. I think they've finally done it here. They're not calling it because it doesn't feel like they've lost yet entirely, and they will have a buyback in, I think, 10 gold, 15 seconds, but every second is going to be a second where this Ancient might just be exposed here. They still have Glyph, though. That's something.
Could try and buy enough time. TB's got his buyback. Now he'll join, but the Ancient has been exposed, and they're just going to start attacking it. Divide, meanwhile, just sort of acting as the goalkeeper, trying to keep these heroes inside of their base, and he will do exactly that. No one from Osmium can push forward, and Wildcard take the game, and they take the series 2-0.
Yeah, super clean, super easy. I think really feeling the pressure a little bit of the map there, and it's why they go for the TB. I think Qatar TB so convincingly is able to really push you to your limit. I think maybe the game would have been a little bit easier if Wildcard picked up a Boots of Travel somewhere along the way, but at the same time, I think they really kind of weren't pulling their punches here. They kind of got exactly what they wanted. Specifically, again, Devi, I thought the Timber was coming. The Timber came, and Devi went 0 deaths, 11-0 and 16. I mean, he kind of just worked the map for all that it was worth. At the same time, they certainly hit a little bit of a lull there. Kind of felt like Wildcard were scrambling for a play for a long time, but then Yamson gets a Blink Dagger, picks up the slack. The entire game plan gets so much easier. They get 2 Orchids at the same time. I mean, after they got those Orchids and I want to say the second Roche, it just never felt like Team Osmium got that perfect play. And then they did. The last fight of the game, they get the grip to stop the CK from hitting the egg. The arena is perfectly placed so that S can't run in to finish off the egg in the arena, blocks the projectiles. and still not enough because they flood buybacks. They have too much net worth. They just got simply too big.
Just it's not quite enough. And yeah, like you said, I mean that execution did finally come there at the end, but by that point it's a little bit too late. So Osmium ever so slightly falling into kind of a similar problem than what happened to them in game one, right? You end up playing from behind for too long, and I will admit Kataro on the Terrorblade was much, much better than the previous attempt with the Juggernaut, but at a certain point, the Terrorblade couldn't actually do it by himself. He came close, but Wildcard were just able to keep him contained for too long.
Yeah, it's a little bit of revenge, I think. I think Wildcard were a little unhappy yesterday. Getting 2-0'd never feels nice, but they certainly proved why they're kind of here to stay. I mean, really easy game. I don't want to say easy because they definitely have to work for it. They definitely have to play well, but at the same time, I feel like they never really were under all too much pressure. I think really the worst game that happened, or rather the worst player who had a game was maybe Alexa. Alexa was really low level in this game. I was kind of surprised. He really wasn't as farmed or as high up there as he usually is, but he was also given a lot of farm to Sammy Boy because Shadow Demon is certainly a very good hero at scaling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we talk about them maybe not having as much farm as they normally would, but at the end of the day, you take a look, they were still both able to pick up some Aghanim scepters and shards for themselves, so maybe they weren't as farmed as they normally were, but they were still miles ahead of the supports on the other side of things. So that's kind of the name of the game if you're wildcard. Even if you're having a subpar game, as long as you are just sort of doing better than your direct counterpart, you are going to be where the team needs you to be. And Osmium, it was a struggle all around, but I look at Cad, you hear 0 and 15 on the Bane. He just was forced into a position where he had to sacrifice himself over and over again.
Yep, it's rough. It's okay. G next. There are always going to be more games of Dota, right?
But in the meantime, we have ourselves a little bit of an interview here post series. So we're going to be getting Eves, aka Yamsun, in here to talk to us. So I believe he is ready to go. I'm going to pull him on in here right now. There we go. Yamsun, hello. Can you hear us?
Hi. Yeah.
Well, let me swing over here so we can actually get your cameras set up there. In frame. Oh, it's nice. There we go. Hello. Sorry about that.
What's up, dude? GG.
Thank you.
Well, um, just gonna start this off right away with maybe a bit of an unfortunate question to ask in this circumstances, but yesterday you guys sort of hit your first roadblock, your first stumble. You lose 3 out of those 4. You come back today with a pretty dominant 2-0 victory. How were you guys able to just sort of bounce back from that setback yesterday and just get in the right frame of mind for today's matches?
So yesterday's 2 series are pretty eye-opening. We encountered some issues we hadn't really encountered before, not even really just gameplay-wise, but like, on a people level, emotional level. We weren't able to stay collected, I think. It was an experience I think we had to go through in order to feel comfortable doing well in the rest of this tournament, in my opinion. So I think it's more beneficial for us that we got it over with earlier on. It was unfortunate it was on the day of a doubleheader, but I think we gained a lot out of that, and hopefully it'll show in the rest of the tournament. We still want to be upper bracket top seeds, so gotta win out.
Yeah, you guys are in a pretty solid position for that so far, especially now uh, after, after this particular 2-0, which I want to maybe address that a little bit here as well. You mentioned you want to be that upper bracket, you want to sort of get in that top position. You guys have been sort of fighting and improving over these last couple of pro series through your sort of DPC runs as well. Do you feel like you have sort of hit that point? Are you at the cusp now? Are you ready to take that next step into the realm of the EGs and the TSMs and just compete at the top of it?
Yeah, I think we've been steadily and slowly getting better for a while now. I talked about it in some previous interviews, but I think we're really starting to hit uh peak and beyond. Hopefully, I don't really want to say peak because, peak performance is, right now we expect more and more every single day. So, hopefully there's no peak. We just keep going. Uh I've played in a lot of these BTS tournaments in the past. I know on Black and Yellow we had a really bad track record in these. They were pretty exhausting for at least me personally on those teams. So I think on this team, experience is a little bit different. I still have one teammate in common, my mid laner. Uh, Learning a lot in some of these games. We plan on taking every game and series seriously, even in this group stage. So it's definitely a big learning experience for us when we lose these games. Uh, yeah, I'm just hoping that we are able to tackle our next doubleheader, which is in 2 days, with a lot more confidence and composure than we did today or yesterday. Sorry.
Appreciate the answer, the in depth as well. So as long as you guys sort of play the way you have been this series, you're going to be looking pretty damn good. And with that, I'll hand it over to ET.
I mean, you asked everything that needed to be asked, though. I mean, I have no good questions. I mean, what's your favorite Twice song, dude? That's the only thing I see your T-shirt. You're really brandishing it. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of there. Uh, that's a hard question. I'll just say right now it's probably. Let me make sure I have the name correctly. I think it's Cruel off their new album. I really like that song.
okay,
That's
done.
my answer. There you go.
Thanks for the interview, dude.
No problem.
Thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye.
Cameras again. So, thank you very much to Yamsun for coming and talking to us. Tag screen. There we go. But yeah, Wildcard. They were a little bit off yesterday, right? You play 4 games, you lose 3 of them. It's always going to be a bit of a concern, but I love hearing from him and his teammates that they're just able to make those adjustments. They come back today looking like they had just not lost a step, and they take care of an Osmium squad that I think we were expecting to give them more of a challenge. So their momentum sort of at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, man, I think it's both sides of the same coin, right? Osmium, they are moving a lot of different players. There are a lot of faces that we very easily recognize. Where Wildcard, especially through the DPC season, it feels like they're finally together at this point. It feels like they're finally kind of meshing, even though we've seen how many different teams they've been on. And I feel like that core group of players has really done a really fine job of getting into that rhythm, though. I think they've really got a lot of momentum. And I mean, he said himself, right? Upper bracket first seed. I have to see. They've got a few big leaps ahead of them, but I think they could definitely pull it off.
Hmm. And with that, we move along to our final series of the day. You can see it on your screen right now. We're going to shift from one squad regaining momentum in the form of Wildcard to a squad searching for any really in the first place. The Cut have yet to win a game in Pro Series, so will that change? You would sort of hope so. You never want to see a team sort of put that 0 on the board for any extended amount of time here, but they're going up against an Infinity lineup that are coming off of a 2-0 win against Wildcard yesterday. So they've got to be feeling pretty confident in themselves in what's looking like, at least on paper, a tough matchup. But we'll see how the games play out. Maybe the Cut have found their motivation. Maybe they've sort of hit that pivot and they can pull this one off. But we are going to be moving into that series in just a little bit here. Final series of the day. The Cut versus Infinity Game 1 will be coming up in just a little bit. So stick around.